Louis' mom, Joanna, passed away back in December, but in an interview with The Sun, Louis reveals what his mom said to him before she passed away, saying, "You've got to get back in contact with Zayn. Life's too short."
For a moment, this looked like one of those rare stories fans wait years to see. Not a full One Direction reunion, not some glossy PR reset, something quieter than that, something more fragile. Two men who once shared one of the biggest pop phenomena in the world, appearing to move, however carefully, back toward each other for a documented road trip. Then, suddenly, the temperature changed. Now fans are staring at a much colder picture. An Instagram unfollow from Louis, soon echoed by his sisters. Alarming reports of a violent, behind-the-scenes altercation at a bar. A concussion. A multi-million-dollar Netflix docuseries indefinitely shelved. A reunion project that once sounded emotional and meaningful now looks unstable, maybe even broken. This is no longer just about what happened between Louis Tomlinson and Zayn Malik. It is about why some reunions feel powerful in theory and impossible in real life. The strangest part? The very thing that was supposed to prove they were healing exposed exactly how unfinished the healing really was. In this video, we are breaking down why the idea of Louis and Zayn reconnecting hit people so hard, why fans were ready to believe in it, and why the latest fallout feels less like a random shock and more like the moment a very delicate illusion finally cracked. Chapter 1: The Receipts and the Reality of the Shift. The first reason this story exploded is obvious. Fans noticed the definitive public shift. In modern celebrity culture, public signals are never just public signals. They become emotional weather, telling people how to feel before anyone has even spoken. When Louis unfollowed Zayn in April 2026, it did not land as something minor. It landed like a message. But the social media moves were just the smoke. The fire was the harsh reality of what allegedly happened off-camera. According to industry insiders, what began as a reflective, three-part Netflix docuseries devolved into a public brawl after a day of shooting. Production was halted, Netflix scrambled. A project meant to capture reconnection was suddenly frozen by renewed conflict. This matters. People were not just reacting to a rumored fight. They were reacting to the sudden reversal of a narrative they had already emotionally committed to. For a lot of people, this had started to feel like one of the most meaningful repair stories in the post-One Direction universe. The second the public signs turned colder, the question was no longer, "Did something happen?" The question became, "Wait, was the reunion ever as real as we thought?" Chapter 2: Why this reunion meant so much in the first place. To understand the intensity here, you have to understand what Louis and Zayn represent to people. This is about one of the oldest unresolved emotional fractures in One Direction history. Zayn's exit from the band in 2015 was not just a professional turning point. It became one of the deepest emotional fault lines in the whole story, changing the chemistry and the mythology of what the band was.
Anyone who wants to write any rubbish about the relationship between us, that's just evidence right there. You know what I mean? When it matters, everyone dropped everything to be there, and I'll never forget that. It meant a lot to me, definitely.
Once something reaches that level in fandom memory, it never stays in the past. It becomes permanent emotional residue. When the possibility of reconnection surfaced, people read it symbolically. They saw time doing what time rarely does, softening old pain. Following the tragic loss of Liam Payne in 2024, that symbolism grew incredibly heavy. Grief changes the emotional temperature of old relationships. Loss makes people re-evaluate distance. It changes what silence means, and it changes how unfinished things feel. By the time this docuseries took shape, fans were no longer just observing it. They were investing in it. People were attached to what the reunion seemed to represent. Representation and reality, however, are not the same thing. The distance between them is where everything breaks. Chapter 3: The Fantasy of Repair versus the Pressure of the Project. Fan culture loves reunion stories. A reunion gives people everything they want at once: closure, healing, and a sense that pain was temporary. It turns years of silence into something redemptive. Real life, unfortunately, does not care about satisfying story shapes. A reunion is easy to imagine because imagination smooths everything out. It skips over the mistrust, the awkwardness, and the private habits of pain that linger.
There was obviously underlying issues like within our friendships too. We'd been together every day for 5 years and we'd got sick of each other, if we're being completely honest. So we were close, you know, we'd done crazy things with each other and that nobody else in the world will ever understand.
Repair is harder. Repair is messy, inconsistent, and rarely moves in a straight line. More importantly, repair rarely survives the pressure of being filmed. The moment healing becomes a highly anticipated Netflix project, the emotional stakes change entirely. A quiet reconnection between two men is one thing. A documented series where they are expected to unpack life, loss, and fatherhood on camera is a massive burden. Once something is being documented, it is no longer allowed to just be. It has to mean something. It has to arc. It has to reward the audience's investment and the studio's budget. The minute a private reconnection becomes public, meaning it starts carrying the weight of the fans, the media, and the cultural memory of the band. This may be the hidden fault line in the whole story. Healing does not always perform well. Sometimes it doubles back on itself. Sometimes it reveals that two people wanted the idea of repair more than they were actually ready for the reality of it. The very framework that made this road trip compelling to the outside world made it nearly impossible to survive privately. Chapter 4. Timing and the Fragility of Myth. Timing can make a story feel 10 times bigger than the facts alone. This was not unfolding in a neutral vacuum. It was happening in the wake of immense grief, while Zayn was already moving through a highly emotional and transitional public phase.
I used to get a lot of anxiety around like having a conversation like this, just in this kind of environment, and I want her to be able to look at me and be like, yo, my dad's doing this, you know, he's the man, he's cool, yeah.
Fans were not encountering this story as detached observers. They were deeply tuned in. When people believe someone is entering a vulnerable era, every new development becomes magnified. Support feels deeper. Concern feels sharper. Conflict feels infinitely sadder. The emotional climate around this story was heavily charged before the fallout even entered the frame. When those two energies met vulnerability on one side, a physical fracture on the other, the public stopped reading events as random. The personal, the historical, and the emotional folded together into one massive narrative. Stories like this rarely break in one place. They usually crack long before the audience can hear it. From the outside, people want one clean explanation, one fight at a bar, one brutal argument, one clear villain. Human relationships carrying a decade of history almost never fail in such neat ways. This reunion may not have fallen apart because of a single altercation. It may have failed because the entire structure was built over years of unresolved emotion. Once the crushing weight of a Netflix production was placed on top of it, the bridge simply gave way. Chapter 5. The real reason this hurts. Fandom takes fragments and builds architecture out of them. A photo becomes a theory. An unfollow becomes heartbreak. A shelved documentary becomes a tragedy. People are no longer reacting only to facts. They are reacting to what those facts seem to promise. The reunion meant growth. It meant maybe the emotional geography of this old story had changed. When people emotionally move into that possibility, setbacks are experienced as profound losses. Celebrity culture trains people to assemble meaning from incomplete pieces, inviting them to care deeply while offering only fragments in return. So, why did the Louis Tomlinson and Zayn Malik reunion fall apart? The answer is likely quieter and sadder than the headlines suggest. It is easy to announce closeness and imagine healing. It is incredibly hard to rebuild trust under glaring public attention, carrying old history without buckling under it. The tragedy isn't that fans cared too much. It's that they saw the outline of something true long before that truth had the strength to hold. Let me know in the comments whether you think this reunion collapsed because of one specific incident, or if the cracks were there long before the cameras ever started rolling.